I had always hoped that this land might become a safe and agreeable asylum to the virtuous and persecuted part of mankind, to whatever nation they might belong. Words of George Washington, one of the greatest of our founders, man generally recognized as the father of our country, speaking with regard to the vision that he had in mind for this nation and the people that would become a part of it shortly after we had won our independence from the Empire of Great Britain. Many, many years later, another great American, Ronald Wilson Reagan. America is a melting pot, and education has been a mainspring for our democracy and freedom, a means of providing gifts of knowledge and opportunity to all citizens, no matter how humble their background, so that they could climb higher, help build the American dream, and leave a better life for those who follow. Now, his predecessor, who had recently been voted out of office in one of the biggest landslides in our nation's history, had a slightly different take on it, as one would imagine, being a representative of the left. We become not a melting pot, but a beautiful mosaic. How wonderful a thought is that? Just paints a picture for you, doesn't it? We become not a melting pot, but a beautiful mosaic. Different people, different beliefs, different yearnings, different hopes, and different dreams. And somehow, over the decades, we've gotten from that to this. Somalians first, Muslims second, apparently Americans at some point in the hierarchy. We caught flack because some people did something that cost almost 3,000 American lives in a single incident. And of course, on the Israeli equation, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Proof positive that I can give her the benefit of the doubt. Occasionally, even Ilhan Omar gets one right. I digress. Matt Walsh wondered aloud this week. It continues to amaze me that Ilhan Omar has such contempt for our country. She comes from Somalia, where the average IQ is 68, likely due at least in part to the prevalence of inbreeding in her culture. A fact, by the way, one of many we're going to dive into later on in the program. It also consistently ranks as one of the most violent and dangerous and poorest countries on earth. Yet she looks at our country with snobbish disdain. I dispute that, Mr. Walsh. She looks at our country with outright hostility, but again, I digress. It seems like every week there is a new incident dealing with a new ethnicity that isn't being part of a melting pot or even a chili pot or even a salad bowl where you can take out the vegetables that you don't prefer. Last week it was Afghans. Now, again, we're revisiting this equation, the disastrous pullout, but primarily the cultural incompatibility. I mean, we already know what we're looking at when we're bringing people in. False equivalencies aside of, well, every new immigrant group has always been hated for this, that, and the other. Well, every new immigrant group, I don't recall the Irish having an 85% rate of physical or sexual abuse from their partners or multiple forms of violence. I don't recall that happening with the Italians either, and I certainly don't recall any of the European nations generating an incidence in 65% to upwards of 70 and 80% in some cases cousin marriage and inbreeding. And I certainly don't remember any European cultures bringing in something as tragic as, culturally acceptable child rape. But again, I digress. Welcoming cultures that are incompatible has gotten us nothing but trouble so far. More recently, it was thrown in our laps when an Afghan, one that we actually trained, one that we actually backed in a fight against the Taliban, someone who you would think they'd have every reason in the world to appreciate and really want to be a good American, but this machine blew a gasket and wound up shooting two National Guardsmen, one of whom died. this behavior will continue to repeat itself. I don't know why it continues to come as a surprise, and I don't know why some people continue not to draw the obvious conclusion. Let's examine the situation right now going on in Minnesota, particularly in Minneapolis. Here we have the anti-American radical on the left and the anti-American radical on the right with the typical Somali light bulb shaped head. Again, I'm sure owing nothing to the rates of cousin marriage in the country, nor his low IQ. But once again, I digress. Before this week, the one thing we knew about Somalia, in fact, the only cultural reference that we had to Somalians at all, for the most part, were Black Hawk Down, right? Based on an operation, a very poorly thought out operation, I should point out, that took place under Bill Clinton, where a number of U.S. servicemen were killed trying to do the right thing for these people. We were trying to secure the delivery of humanitarian aid because the country, as always, is ruled by a successive set of violent warlords. We went in to forcibly get food to the people, something that could be assumed to be a good thing, and we lost American soldiers and millions of dollars of equipment for our trouble because, apparently that glorious society in Somalia just won't have any of that. We knew him for Black Hawk Down, and we also knew him for, guess what else? Piracy. And I'm not talking about just the movie reference. By the way, Tom Hanks, independent of what you may think about his connections to Epstein, still is a phenomenal actor. But the movie wasn't the point. The movie was based on a single incident of the only other thing Somalia is known for, and that is high seas piracy. And yet, we throw open the doors, welcome them in with open arms. We only know them from Muhammad Farah Adid and piracy on the high seas, but now that this fraud case has happened, we're getting to know them for even more reasons that should give us pause. A little thing called female genital mutilation. Where are you, ladies? War on women? Margaret Atwood, Handmaid's Tale, don't dress us in red dresses and force us to do things against our will. Bodily autonomy for all females. Where are you, ladies? Yeah, the female genital mutilation rate. And we'll get into specifics about this and so many other things later on in the program. We know them for the rate of rapes that are taking place in Europe and the increase that has taken place with the immigration over there, and somehow think that we're going to be above the fray, that it's not going to happen here, in spite of the fact of, this group of people that were kind enough not to be out raping, they just defrauded the American taxpayer. That's how they showed their gratitude, apparently. It must be a cultural thing, and I'm probably a bigot just for not understanding. But the totals now are in the billions, and it could go into double-digit billions. That's what we know them for now. The betrayal just keeps getting deeper, and more elements just keep getting uncovered. And it's not just the Somalians, it's the American sympathizers that are benefiting from this fraud. The more that comes out, the more impossible it's going to be to do anything but draw the obvious conclusions. And yet, I want body armor made out of the left's cognitive dissonance, because clearly nothing will ever get through it. I wish that it was only the financial fraud. But guess what? Along the same period of time, a Somalian-run human sex trafficking ring with operations in 3 different states. And again, we act surprised. We see the statistics from Europe and we think it can't happen here. We take a look at this group of folks that ran a similar ring in Bristol, in England. And again, we seem to think that we're somehow going to manage to be above it. Maybe it's the magic soil thing that everybody seems to attribute the success of Western civilization to. It's got nothing to do with us. It's got nothing to do with our cultural values. It's got nothing to do with our more evolved, higher intellectual constructs. Oh, no. We just land on a place and the magical soil just blesses us with advanced civilizations. I'm glad that things like this are happening. Why? Because it forces us to do the deep dive. It forces us to talk about the impolite things that people would rather avoid. Getting back to that melting pot and nation of immigrants theory, Teddy Roosevelt had a lot to offer on that. In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the man's becoming in very fact an American and nothing but an American. Teddy, I could not agree more. People who come here and want to realize the benefits of the privilege that it is to be an American. People that come here and want to assimilate. People who come here and want to receive the opportunities that are here should not be discriminated against because of where they come from. I'll hold up the Asians as my favorite example. Coming here, prospering, outdoing white Europeans by every metric here in America. And God bless them for doing so. God bless them for maintaining their cultural self-interest and for seeing the benefit of the blessing for what it is and making the most of it. God bless them all, and none of them should be discriminated against solely for their birthplace. We need to take a look at the numbers and where these folks are coming from. I love science, bro. Yeah, you love science. I love data, bro. Let's talk about the data until the data doesn't fit the narrative. And sometimes things are just going to bug you that happen to be true. I had a hashtag for that sitting around here somewhere. I wonder if I can put that up on the board. Yeah, hate fact. But we're going to get into a lot of those as the program goes on as well. I got plenty of stuff to cover here. We have to take into account very relevant factors like IQ related to culture and national origin. We have to take into account cultural factors. And once we look at the cultural factors of those cultures that have been flooding in since the Hart Act of 1965, we have to re-examine the numbers and take a serious look at where this is all headed. The number of foreign-born doesn't bother me in the least. Again, the Asians have done a marvelous job. Not just marvelous, exemplary, if we're being honest. If every culture and every group of immigrants that came here could live up to the example that the Asians have set, there would be no complaints. It would evaporate overnight. But that's not where they're coming from. And those population groups have taken a serious toll on not just the ethnicity, but the culture of America as bequeathed to us by the founders. Now, again, revisiting Teddy Roosevelt, there can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American but something else also isn't an American at all. Israel lobby, do you hear me? Senators betrothed to IPAC, do you hear me? Any man who says he is an American, but something else also, isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is a loyalty to the American people. And walking it like he talked it, softly and carrying a big stick, Teddy, in an unrelated matter, stressed that the loyalty is to the country and not to the leader. He was ideologically consistent. You have a loyalty to the country, you have a loyalty to its laws, its culture, and its constitution, not to any particular leader. Boy, we could use another man like Teddy these days. What was it that he said? We have room for but one flag, the American flag. Does any of this reflect what you think Teddy had in mind for assimilation? Does any of this reflect what you think Teddy had in mind for a loyalty to the American people? And it doesn't just stop there. Some of the people who are natural born citizens on our college campuses, whose loyalty should damn well be to the American people and to the culture that enabled them to receive the benefits of this great education, are flying foreign flags in our midst, up to and including flags of known terrorist organizations, celebrating the events of October the 6th, October 7th, rather. Sorry, it's January the 6th that they won't let us forget about. But October the 7th, what do they fly in on? Paragliders. What do you see on that flag? A paraglider. What is the obvious message here? Does this look like loyalty to the American people? Does this look like loyalty to the West? Yeah, but it's all about the melting pot, isn't it? That melting pot. Bart McCluskey happened to say America is not a melting pot. It is a sizzling cauldron. And at this point, it could never be more true. Now, we're told we've got to make way. We're told that assimilation is racist. We're told that, this is just the natural end of progress, and our ethnic and cultural replacement is something that we're just going to have to embrace. Dan Carlin, not the biggest fan, by the way, of the current administration, said, okay, if they go that route, then they quickly lose control of their own country via birth rates and the ballot box. Can you see why they might not be too enthusiastic about what to them looks like conquest via democracy? That democracy they're always telling us is under threat. You may see this as morally right, but the reticence is human. In other words, we're not too thrilled at the prospect of our own principles, that is, representative government and all the glories of the West being used against us, to replace us. And when we're staring down the barrel of being replaced by the likes of Muhammad's minions, and we look at birthright U.S. citizens lining up in their corner, you can understand why maybe, just maybe, there might be a bit of hesitation on the part. Maybe, just maybe, we're not thrilled with the prospect of our culture, our civilization, and our birthright being laid to waste, not by conquest by a more powerful enemy, but by usurpers and betrayers from within. That's the only way they can take us. And we are letting it happen. Revisiting nation of immigrants as a theory. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Levin, but he makes an excellent point. We are not a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of citizens. I'll go back into the origin of that later in the program, but stay with me, stay tracking for right now. We are not a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of citizens. And I am sick and tired of the American citizen being demeaned and treated as a second-class citizen. These guys, by the way, call that dimitude, but we'll get to that later. Being demeaned is treated as a second-class citizen, while anybody who crosses the border is treated as the most virtuous human being on the face of the earth. I'll also refer you to a lady by the name of Ayan Hirsi Ali. She knows from whence she speaks when she gets into those nasty cultural things that you don't want to talk about, like violence against women and female genital mutilation as a culturally accepted and celebrated phenomenon. She knows it firsthand. Momentary epiphany. Maybe that's why Ilhan Omar never smiles. She's never had a clitoral orgasm. I digress. Ayan Hirsi Ali. In the real world, equal respect for all cultures doesn't translate into a rich mosaic of colorful and proud peoples interacting peacefully while maintaining a delightful diversity of food and craft work. The rich mosaic referring back to the earlier Jimmy Carter quote. It translates into closed pockets of oppression, ignorance, and abuse. And we're seeing it all over the United States now. From Minneapolis, Minnesota to Dearborn, Michigan, everywhere that they have insulated themselves, refused to assimilate, and built their own little mini closed off societies within the boundaries of the host country that welcomed them in with open arms. Thomas Sowell said that what multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture in the world except Western culture, and you cannot blame any culture in the world except Western culture. We are simultaneously expected to accept that we are both forbidden from celebrating our own culture and mandated to apologize to every other, no matter how brutal, no matter how backward, no matter how morally depraved, no matter how hostile they are to this host culture that welcomed them in. It is reaching a boiling point. And when it boils over, I don't think anyone's going to like the results. How's the temperature of the water where you're sitting these days? Feel free to let me know. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one is for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. Try your best. It's not going to work. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They're coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and force feed you fistful after latex glove fistful of truth cock until your eyes bleed or learn how to see. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. Time once again for the Sunday Sermon, Somalia edition. Glad you guys made it out. Looks like we've got a lively conversation going on over here in the comments before I even showed up. Right now, we're going to do the roll call. Where's the enthusiasm, people? Everybody in drum roll. Here we go. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we always come reeling and rocking damn near any given Sunday to the strains of Red Desert gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, finding themselves once again in the crosshairs of foreign invasion. In any case, guys, the name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. I got a feeling this week is going to be a mixed bag, but regardless, we're jumping into it. We're here now. We are out the door. Nothing to do but commit. And oh my goodness, what a lively conversation we got going on over here in the comments. Brother Roman taking the gold, showing up first and foremost, the firstest with the mostest. Yet again this Sunday, happy to see Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends, the OG Sinner Sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Mwah. Nice to see you on board, sweetheart. Brief prayer for the remembrance of Pearl Harbor. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. A date which will live in infamy. Never forget it, brother. Never forget it. Took a long, arduous process to get to where we are in this country, and we're a little reluctant to see it go the way of the dinosaurs, so pardon us for preserving it. David on board early. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Picking your nose is racist. Not picking your nose is racist. Having a nose is racist. And pointing out that some people have longer noses than others is also racist. I couldn't resist, man. Just throwing it out there, not trying to pick a fight or anything. Brother Mike, the mighty Stone, is on board. Yeah, Stone, you were here a little bit early, but better early than late, man. Remember, guys, early is on time is late. And since Roman is here, that means his lovely wife, Carrie, is lurking in the background. Nice to see you, sweetheart. And let me see, Roman switched up and went to the other computer. Probably a good idea. I don't know if the Wi-Fi connection is better with that one, what you got going on. Preacher George on board. God bless you, brother. God bless you. Jesus is the only way. Always a pleasure to see you on any social media platform. Yep, BBY is a privilege, BS. Yes, sir, brother. We're going to cover it all today, man. We're going to cover it all today. Going to be interesting for everything. We just joined a new gym. It's huge. 6 squat racks. Cool, man. That's the way to go about it. What am I always saying, man? Get your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron, and I guarantee you, your world is going to be a better place. What is that? These people need to reread Teddy Roosevelt's hyphenated American speech. Yes, indeed. I wanted to borrow some more from that in the opener, but I figured, if you're here, you're probably already intimately familiar with that. There are things with which I disagree on with Teddy. During the progressive era, some of the trustbuster stuff, I'm really not sure how to feel about a lot of the things that are going on. Obviously, you're not going to agree with everybody on everything, but Teddy was very solid on that point. And this is a guy who walked it like he talked it across the board, man. Probably the last of the real men, quote unquote, that we have had in the Oval Office, man. He was a wrestler. He was a boxer. He brought over jiu-jitsu guys from Japan to the White House. Like he set up a ring inside the White House and did sparring matches to keep his combative skills sharp. This is a guy that led the charge at San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders, man. This was a man. This was the kind of man that this culture used to revere. This was the kind of man that this culture used to respect. So for whatever minor ideological disagreements I may have with the man, you got to give him credit where credit is due. He was an American first. And that is what he expected everybody else to be, right? We have gotten so far away from that. There's no pressure put on anyone anymore. It's like, well, you're here. Welcome aboard. Here's your benefits package. Don't worry about learning to speak the language. Don't worry about the cultural mores, all the things. Literally in this country, we are seeing people acquitted or having their sentences reduced for rape, because they didn't, quote unquote, from female judges every damn time, they didn't understand culturally that rape was a no-no thing. They just didn't get it. They couldn't get their heads around the concept. It's lunacy. Suicidal empathy is the term that some have coined for it, and I think that's a dead-on accurate term. But we'll get into every single bit of that as we go on, man. I'm happy that all the usual suspects are here. Happy that everybody's on time. And it's nice to see, like, a very yes, indeed, most definitely. I like that people are having these conversations over here in the comments. I really like that is happening. Because that's what we're trying to build here, man. We're trying to build some community and some interaction. Again, man, going to go ahead and close out the bumper music. And we'll get the outro music situated on this thing. Here we go. No. That's not the one. Yeah, having a little difficulty here. There we go. We'll put that one on pause, and that'll be queued up and ready to rock on the way out. Fantastic. Again, just me and a laptop. I don't have a producer here. I don't have anything going on. What I do have is my Iron Infidel battle bottle full of liquid enthusiasm, and that's always a good thing to keep around. These guys are not paid sponsors, but I always like giving them a shout out. And speaking of, the guys that do the bumper music, Red Desert, they're not a paid sponsor either, but they've been kind enough to let me use that track as bumper music for the 5+ years, going on 6 years now, that we have been doing the sermon. So again, take care of the people that take care of the program. Talking about guys like Roman, of course. If you're in the Spokane area, talking about guys like my Viking brothers, get out there and buy some barbecue. But, guys like Red Desert, who are just doing little things, man. Buy some of their merch, download some of their music, and pay for it. Some of you 90s guys don't really understand that as a concept, but once upon a time, we paid for downloaded music. And anyway, we'll spare that. But take care of the people. Clearly, again, I'm still in a motel room, which means clearly I'm still working, which means that clearly I still have money coming in, all right? When you see me and I'm doing stuff from the bunker, that generally means that I'm not working. At that point, maybe I could use it. You know what I mean? But there's nothing mandatory about kicking down. But the people who are kicking down, the people who are taking care of the program and taking care of me in the meantime, help them out, man. Help them out. Again, this is all about building community. And, that's in every sense of the word. You guys who are local, you got like minds and kindred spirits. You got people in your circle. You need to be spending that money with people who not necessarily need it, but people who are part of the community, man. Vote with your dollar. It's one of the few powers that we still have left to us as Americans. We've been excluded from the political process because of our complexions. We've been completely ostracized by any measurable metric in the social in the social arena. We got to take care of it. All we got is us. All we got is us. We got to take care of our own. And when we go to take care of our own, even that now is considered bigoted or racist or whatever it is that they want to dump on us. We're at a point where we no longer care and we no longer should. Take care of the people who are taking care of me, taking care of the program, who are taking care of their people, who are taking care of their blood, who are taking care of the church, who are taking care of the faith. Build that community. And by the way, yeah, I see you sneaking in down there, Mr. Vargas. God bless you and happy birthday. Everybody, 2 birthdays I want to celebrate right now. And I'm going to get back over here and see if I can get this music screen to work. There are 2 people who are celebrating birthdays, and since Mr. Vargas is here, we're going to give him a big round of applause. Here we go. Yes, right on. Happy birthday to Josh Vargas, dear friend of mine from down in H-Town. Everybody, come on, give it up, give it up. I hope you can actually hear the cheering, because otherwise I'm responding to an imaginary sound effect, and we've had that problem before. But big thunderous roar of applause for Mr. Vargas, celebrating another trip around the sun. Murderabilia collector, filmmaker, musician, and just an all around top-notch dude, man. And I'm glad to have Mr. Vargas around. We're going to do one more round of applause, of course, for a man who isn't here for the sermon, but nevertheless, big part of my life, Brother Sonny Puzikis, the Mad Russian, brother in arms, brother in Christ, also celebrating a birthday today. The fact that Vargas and Sonny have a birthday on the same day is, I really don't know how to feel about that. There are some other weird synchronicities with birthdays and things, but I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to read too much into it. But in any case, 2 people who are dear friends and very close to me, both celebrating their birthday on this day, and happy birthday to both of them. Vargas, I'm glad you made it out. We're gonna do the sponsor shout outs real quick before we jump into the meat of this thing. And Josh, I think you're gonna dig some of the stuff that we're gonna be talking about today, because we've had long phone conversations about this stuff. And yeah. What is it? Happy birthday, Mr. Vargas? Oh, with the grandpa. So it's all there. We go. Dave, yes, you should not sue anyone. Just don't buy their product. People buy from them, stand with you and embrace. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So yeah, sponsor shout outs very, very briefly. First and foremost, of course, Brother Roman over at opiumtales.com. Check him out on Substack. If you have not already subscribed to his Substack, you should check that out. That is the testosterone driven commentary part of this part of the operation. But he also does beautiful watercolor work of beautiful, tastefully done naked women, nothing even bordering on the pornographic, which probably rules Vargas out, but but in any case, beautiful watercolor work, beautiful creative stuff. He's got collections under Roman Riva on Amazon. He's got Roman Freely, which is his collection of watercolor work, and he's got short fiction work that he's doing over there too. And he's kicking out the jams over at Substack doing the essays. If you are not familiar with Substack, get familiar with Substack. It is literally the only place that is a true free speech platform anymore, and God love Saint Elon, may his name be praised. He did a good thing buying X, but there are still people in the works over at X, maybe some leftovers from Twitter and some of the other things there's still the ghost in the machine. There's still shadow banning. There's still jacking with the algorithms. And I promise you that Roman would be able to tell you more about that than I would. But in any case, he's doing good stuff over on Substack. Go check him out and check out some of the short fiction. Again, take care of the people who are taking care of the program. Also, big sponsor shout out once again to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue. The season is upon us. The Viking Longship smoker trailer is sailing the asphalt seas, and they're doing catering gigs. They're smoking the holiday turkeys. You still got plenty of time to get in that Christmas turkey, put in your order, and throw them some of your hard-earned cash, and you will have the best damn smoked turkey you've ever tasted in your life. The only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Sit down, shut up. You're wrong. Talking about my boys over there at Nordic Smoke. Dusty, the pitmaster over there. Casey has moved on to bigger and better things. He has passed the bar as a practicing attorney in the state of Washington, and definitely, if you've got needs of a legal sense, he's the guy that you need to hook up. I've got him on retainer, so should you. And also, he is a published author. You can find him on Amazon. His book, Freaks of a Feather, published by Latop Press out of Spokane, Washington, available on Amazon. He's an incredibly gifted writer, and all that I should need to tell you about this book is that it is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. Yeah, heavy, super heavy, and he's incredibly gifted, and he carries on. He carries the imagery across. You are seriously taking a walk on his inner landscape when you read this book. It's some fascinating stuff, man. Very fascinating stuff. Hell of a guy, too. He's been a great friend over the years. So, again, taking care of the people who are taking care of me and taking care of the program. All right. First thing we want to jump into, of course, is the scripture lessons, plural, for the week. Again, this segment is inspired by Brother Jeff Truitt. You can find him on YouTube, where he is known as Treasure Monk. The guy's built an incredible life for himself. He gets out and does the metal detecting and the treasure hunting and that kind of stuff. He has been a Navy corpsman. He has been the medical officer on a number of private military contractor details, from back in the Blackwater days, where he's working details for the State Department, including the protection and medical part of being the protection detail for Paul Bremer, Secretary of Defense, and other top-ranking members of the State Department. He is a really, really great life. He, like myself, stepped away from the church in his early adulthood, and he, like myself, although a bit later than myself, has been drifting back in that direction. And he hit me up shortly after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I said, "Hey, man, do you do Bible study on your program?" And I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me previous to that, because here I had this platform all this time. I've been walking the faith all this time and did not think to just, hey, let's throw some scripture in here and put out the good word. And so ever since then, we've been doing that as a weekly part of the sermon, and this week is going to be no different. Bossman's got me up in the four gospels this month, and I've been going through Luke this week, and we're going to start from the book of Luke, chapter 9. And where this is coming from, actually, I've got these out of order. The book of Luke, chapter 9, verse 49. And, Christ is there. He's teaching in the synagogue, and one of his disciples going, "Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him because he followeth not with us." Followeth not with us. And Christ responds, and Jesus said unto him, "Forbid him not, for he that is not against us is for us." Now, there's a reason that these two verses in particular spoke to me. You guys have heard it over the last several weeks in the sermon that I've been talking about it. All the infighting that is taking place both inside the faith and outside the faith with regard to who's on board. Guys, what we are up against here is evil. We are up against evil in all sorts of forms. We are up against evil in all sorts of manifestations. And we need all hands on deck. We need good and righteous to be willing to stand in the gap against evil. We need good and righteous to be willing to stand in the gap against all the things that are trying to destroy us. And when I say us, I am talking about everything. I am talking about trying to destroy the whole prospect of the nuclear family. I am talking about trying to destroy the faith. I'm talking about trying to destroy the culture, trying to destroy the nation. This is what they are about. This is who they are. They have been very forward about their intent. They make no secret of it anymore. There's no subterfuge. They like to downplay it a little bit for the sake of the grazers, so they don't come off as, big scary boogeyman that needs to be taken out right this very second. But this is what I'm talking about, man. The infighting between denominations, whether it's Protestant denominations or whether it's whether it's entire schools of thought, whether it's Catholic versus Protestant or Catholic Protestant versus Orthodox or any of this stuff. Even the Mormons, man, there are people, and I'm not making friends by this, by the way, because there are people who are part of my church and part of my faith that hold that LDS is just an outright false doctrine. And we can have that ideological debate. But the one thing that I will say about the Mormons is that they do stand in the gap against evil, and they do walk it like they talk it. And again, here it is. Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him because he followeth not with us. And Jesus tells them, forbid him not, for he that is not against us is with us. When I'm given these rants and these lectures about I will stand proudly beside anyone who stands in the gap against evil, this isn't it's not just me. This is something we are scripturally admonished. Do you understand that? The fact that you're standing against evil, but you're not a Christian, and I'm supposed, well, I'm sorry, he's not, no. Carpenter very clearly says, hey, man, he's not against us, so that means he's with us. Now, it's not always that simple in life, though, like that, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's not always that simple. You're either with me or against me. All of things in life are not always that simple. But for the sake of this, for the sake of standing in the gap against evil, if you are not standing with evil, then you want to stand beside me and stand in the gap against evil. Cool. You're not a Christian. I don't care. I was true pagan. Don't care. Line up, man. Line up. Somebody give him a gun, right? Mormon. Okay, cool. Magic underwear, cool. Don't worry about it. Somebody give him a knife. If you're not against us, you're with us, man. You're with us by default. The exception, notably, being the milquetoast Christians, the lukewarm Christians, the halfway Christians, again, milquetoast boys that they're neither hot nor cold. Carpenter had a word to say about that as well. Because you were neither hot nor cold, I will spit thee from my mouth. Those are the ones who are going to come up later. Hey, man, I was in church every Sunday. Didn't I show up in church every Sunday? Didn't I say all the right words? Be gone from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you. Philip Anthony Mitchell is right. Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. If you don't follow him, you should. The guy is really on fire with the Spirit. But yeah, I agree with him on that front. The scariest verse in all of Scripture: "Be gone from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you." Right. So it's important for us to stand. And if we're standing, that means we stand together. And that means if you were standing at my side and you are in the gap and you are sworn against the evil, right? The forces of darkness in high places, to get back to Ephesians, right? Not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Guess what? Sometimes those principalities manifest in flesh and blood. And if you are standing beside me, I don't care if you're part of the Magic Underwear crew. I don't care if you're part of the confessional crew. I don't care if you're saying the Jesus prayer. I don't care if you're quoting the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, stanzas from the Havamal. If you are not against us, you are with us, so long as you are aligned against evil. And that is why those two verses spoke to me. And the second one that I'm going to throw out real quick, also from the book of Luke, because so many people seem to be, it's the can't see the forest for the trees department, right? And he said also to the people, when ye see a cloud rise out of the west, straight away ye say, there cometh a shower. And so it is. And when ye see the south wind blow, ye say, there will be heat, and it cometh to pass. Ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it that ye do not discern this time? Y'all tracking on that? Y'all tracking on why that hits? Particularly and it's not just for the milquetoast Christians. It's not just for those guys, but particularly for those guys. They see everything all around them, right? They see the culture in decline. They see the nation falling apart. They see truth being stood on its head. They see Christians, both here and abroad, being actively persecuted. They see Jihad Johnny by virtue of people who are too fearful and cowardly and calling themselves tolerant to keep these people out of their home countries in Mother Europe. They see it happening. Somehow think this isn't the end time. It's that normalcy bias. As long as I've got food in my fridge, bro, I'm cool. As long as I got gas in my tank and I can get to church every Sunday, it's cool. Right? Yeah, man, the world's a messed up place, but it's always been a messed up place. I mean, there's nothing particularly. No, bro. No. No, 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 no. You can walk in that deception if you choose to walk in that deception. You could go the other route and start catastrophizing everything. I don't think that's constructive either. But if you don't recognize that we are at a point of historical and spiritual inflection, the likes of which has not been seen on this planet. It's another thing about being in the Gospels, particularly Book of Mark, chapter 13, right? A whole lot of that. And revisiting Revelation as I did not so very long ago. This is not, oh, the world's always been messed up, man. Nothing particular. No, 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 no. You know, as the carpenter was saying, as the Nazarene was imparting his wisdom to these people, you can discern what the weather's going to be tomorrow, right? You can discern that A plus B equals C. You can make those calls, but you cannot. And I'm going to go one better. I don't think it's that they can't. I think a lot of people are cowards and they don't want to. They refuse to accept it. When the evidence is right there in front of your face, beating you in the face, kicking down your door and presenting itself, and you still go, yeah, well, I mean, it's been bad before in history too. Not going to work for me, Sparky. Not at all going to work for me. You need to get your head right. As I'm always saying, you need to get your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron. It's about to become, right now we're on live the 3. That's about to become live the 4, at this rate. You can discern all of these things. You can tell, straight up, ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky and of the earth. But how is it that ye do not discern this time? If it were ignorance, I think the boss man and the carpenter would be willing to forgive that. Because that's a human frailty. That's a human imperfection. But when it's fear, think about Jonah, man. Think about Jonah on his way to Nineveh. There wasn't with Jonah, it wasn't, I don't know if God really wants me to go there. Like, am I really obligated? I mean, like, he kind of suggested that I went to Nineveh and minister to these people and prophesy to these people. But, I mean, he didn't really send me like a written invitation, right? Like, I mean, I'd get to it later, right? I'll just get on this boat and I'll bypass it. I'll get to the Nineveh thing eventually, but God didn't really put what happened? What happened to Jonah? Storm came upon him at sea. He figured out, oh, well, this is my written invitation. Had the crew throw his ass overboard, and they did. They were happy to oblige. Calmed right up. Seas and skies calmed right down. Fish swallows him, spits him up on the shore just outside of Nineveh. There's your written invitation. We're talking about what we're talking about from the book of Luke. You can discern the sky and the earth, but you cannot discern this time. Some of y'all that are waiting around for that written invitation are going to get it in the most unpleasant way. You know what you're called to do for yourself, for your family, for your nation, for your people, and for the civilization that your blood, your nation, your people have created. You know, and you're walking away from it, trying to feign ignorance. It will catch up. I assure you, it will catch up. Something that Ryan brought up indirectly, not totally related, but tangentially brought this up a couple of weeks ago. He mentioned it in passing. This is something from the Quran. The ink of scholars is weighed on the day of judgment with the blood of martyrs, and the ink of scholars outweighs the blood of martyrs. Read that again. The ink of scholars is weighed on the day of judgment with the blood of martyrs, and the ink of scholars outweighs the blood of the martyrs. Now, you can fish out the whole Quran if you want. Excuse me. To contextualize that. The ink of the scholars, because of the Muslim principle of taqiyya, being able to lie to an infidel to achieve goals for Muhammad and for Allah, the ink of the scholars is currently doing more work than the blood of the martyrs for Islam. We did have another Christmas market. You barely heard about it, but preparations for another Christmas market in Europe, and Jihad Johnny drove a vehicle through it. The martyrs are getting some work done in Europe. The martyrs are getting some work done here in the United States. And there will come a day, not very far down the line, where the word will be given, and they will realize that they have gotten as much traction as they can through the ink of the scholars. All of the misleading that they have done, again, based on the principle of taqiyya, all the ways that they have misled the West into thinking that Islam is just another religion, all the lies and deceptions that they have managed to distribute through their pervasiveness and ubiquity inside academia and the universities and media culture, and sad to say, a whole lot of lukewarm Christians who refuse to see that threat for what it is. Currently, the ink of the scholars is doing a lot more damage than the blood of the martyrs. But when the blood of the martyrs starts getting distributed, we're going to see that turn on a dime. It's going to be a very unpleasant situation for which a whole lot of people are not prepared. White liberal women, I'm looking at you. Okay? White liberal women, I am looking at you. All of the things that you assign to us, to Christianity, to conservatism, to the MAGA movement, to the patriarchy, and all of these other things. What's the old saying? You ain't seen nothing yet, sweetheart. You haven't. And sadly, again, owing to cognitive dissonance, they're not able to process that. They think that the stakes are that, oh, we don't have to go authoritarian either way. We can just play it right down the middle, and we don't have to hurt anybody's feelings, and we don't have to have any theocracy running the show. And I'd love to believe that. I'd love to believe that. But I've read the book, and I know. Right. Yeah, he didn't just brush him off. He ran away actively. These people will stop at nothing. And you can have your little fallbacks. Well, yeah, but according to your scripture, you guys have to. No. We have to preach the gospel through all the earth. We have to take the gospel. We have to take the gospel around the world. We have to see God's word put in front of people. Okay? That's what we're commanded to do in our scripture. We are not commanded to subjugate and kill everyone who rejects that word, particularly in the New Testament. We're taught to pray for those who persecute us, all of these things. I understand that your thought processes are entirely driven by emotion, that logic is a secondary part of the process, if at all. And I'm sad for that. Believe me, I would rather the world be as if I would rather the world be as y'all see it, as y'all wish it to be. It'll be a much better world for everybody. Unfortunately, that world is currently populated with over 1 billion of these Stone Age savages. Well, it's only like 1% of them that are radical. What is 1% of 1 billion? Do some simple math, people. 1%. Oh, so it's only 1%. 1% of 1 billion that want to see all of us subjugated or dead. And I, first of all, fundamentally disagree that it's only 1%. Any nation that you look at, even the so-called developed nations that are Islamic, Egypt. Talk to the people of Egypt. See what rank and file Egyptians have to say about Sharia law and what should happen to infidels and apostates. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I will say this much for the Saudis, okay? And I'm not trying to make excuses here, and I'm not trying to rationalize, but I will say this for the Saudis. The Saudis at least understand that pragmatism holds a place in the world over doctrine. The Saudis kicked out the Muslim Brotherhood. You understand that? Muslim Brotherhood is a political organization that has way too much power in this country, that Dark Cheeto recently declared an international terrorist organization, quite overdue, by the way. The Saudis cut them loose. Saudis wanted nothing to do with it. Qatar, in my understanding, fact check me on that, but I believe, if memory serves, Qatar did the same thing. These people are lunatics. These people want a caliphate, and they will stop at nothing. And the Saudis are like, you know what? We love Allah and everything, but dude, we're living pretty good right now. How about we just get these people out? Because everywhere these guys go, it's going to be trouble. And eventually, and see, they have the sense. Here's the thing about the Saudis. They have the good sense to realize that these people who are hardcore in the doctrine, they don't care what you profess from your palace. They don't care what you profess to the world media when you're having your meetings with all these world leaders about how much money is going to be coming your way. They don't care about that. You, to them, are an apostate. At the very least, a bad Muslim. And the people who are top dogs in Saudi, they understand the mindset of these people enough to know we got to get them the hell out of here, because eventually they're going to come for us. Good on them. There's nuance and subtlety to this stuff, y'all. And unfortunately, nobody thinks it through like that. I'm just as guilty of that in presentation when I use generalized terms like Jihad Johnny and Muhammad's minions and all Muslims and this and that. I realize I'm just as guilty. The thing about it is presentation versus understanding. Because I've read the books, because I've done the historical analysis, because I've actually thought this through and looked at the pros and cons of all sides and come to my own individual conclusions. Most people don't do that. It's either that Matt Al fella told me this, or, Sean Hannity told me that. So what we have is what we can observe. And that is the fact that culturally they are completely incompatible. And we're about to do the dive on that with regard to melting pots. Okay. So we all know about the fraud we all know about the fraud case, and currently, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open another tab here, simply for the sake of looking at it. So we have the up-to-date information. Minnesota Somali fraud case. Bang, boom, and we go to news. Minnesota officials saw Minnesota officials saw signs of massive fraud even before COVID hit. Right? Something that I found when I was doing show prep, and to my substantial discredit, I did not put the actual thing so I could show you guys. There was a study that came out from the National Institutes of Health. You know, the medical high priesthood, the guys that we cannot question because they're the medical guys and they're the experts, and we're not doctors, so we haven't. Okay, they published a study. National Institutes of Health published a study, right, about the uptick in frequency of autism, right? And the whole study was based around that Somali community in Minneapolis. The whole study came out. And they were like, wow, what could be causing this? Is it something in the environment? Is it something in the bloodline? Is it the overabundance of inbreeding that's causing this? No, none of it was causing that. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. It was all fraud. And the high priesthood of medicine, the National Institutes of Health, pondered every possibility for this massive uptick in Somali immigrant autism in Minneapolis. What could be causing it? Nothing was causing it. It didn't exist. It's fraud. But again, looking at it, you go to a new scheme, schemes stacked upon schemes, $1 billion of public benefits fraud, fuels scrutiny, let's continue, fuels scrutiny of Minnesota's Somali community. And of course, the fallback is not all Somalis. Okay, not all Somalis were involved in the fraud, but this definitely is a reflection of their culture. Every bit of it. They're proud of it. TikTok video after TikTok video, they are boasting about this. We are going to bleed you dry. One guy went so far as to make a video, the only thing I hate is that Trump isn't going to be around for our final takeover. You can go look online and find that. It's the attitude. They do not understand the cultural mores at work here. There is no sense of shame in Somali culture. None. None. When Trump says these people are garbage, and I know there's at least one or two of you out there that are like, you're not being a very good Christian because they are all children of God. Okay, you want to hold that over my head? Fine. It's not gonna affect me. It's not gonna hold up because the number one directive is to walk in truth. These people are garbage by any measurable metric, and since they are aligned with the demonic God and his pedophile prophet Muhammad, I am not obligated or even admonished to give them any entertainment of equality or time of day. They're garbage by any measurable metric. And if saying so makes me a bad Christian, well, I'll take that up with the boss man. I'll take that up with the Nazarene the next time I'm on my knees, we're having a conversation. These are terrible people. Their culture is terrible. The places that they are coming from are terrible. When you look at the influx of Haitian immigrants, right, another one of those groups that we can't even dispute the merits of them being here. And I wish that Jeff was here. I wish that Treasure Monk, Jeff Truitt, was here. He took a bullet in the gut. Working a security detail in Haiti. Going to close a gate, and they waited until he had it halfway closed, and the dude just peeked a little 38 revolver around the corner and pow, just shot him in the gut. 357, if memory serves. I wish he was here to correct me on that. Luckily, he was wearing body armor, but I mean, he still took some damage from that slug. Look at the countries that these people originate from. We go back to the opener What did George Washington have to say about it? What did George Washington have to say about that? I'd always hoped that this land might become a safe and agreeable asylum to the virtuous and persecuted part of mankind, to whatever nature they might belong. And I couldn't agree more. But that means you realize that you are living in a subterranean hole, a festering sore, and you were looking to come to the greatest nation in the world, and you realize what a privilege it is to be here. You come to assimilate, you come to become part, you come to, when previous generations of immigrants were coming here to take advantage of the opportunity was to get out and start a business. The opportunity was to get out and earn a living. The opportunity was to be and become the best person you could be and take better care of your family and have more opportunities that we were able. These people culturally do not understand any of that. The standard for them, their opportunity is, you mean they just give money away like that without asking questions? Wow, how stupid is that? Let's grab all we can. And they have. Again, getting back to the liberal white women, y'all are bristling right now. I don't care. You know what? I'm gonna put this little hashtag up so okay, hate fact. Because you can say that the things that I'm presenting are hateful. What you can't deny is their factual accuracy. Look it up. Any of the things that I'm saying. Here are the things that we're finding out, and this is just the news. Any link, what is that? Representative Ilhan Omar, any link between alleged Somali fraud and terrorism would be a failure of the FBI. Do you see how they're already starting to deflect? Any link between Somali fraud and terrorism would be a failure of the FBI. Not something that I was aware of or profited from. No. The FBI, look, and basically it comes down to this. If you call them on it, and I should point out, this is another fact, and you can look this up. At one point, Ilhan Omar's district was number 1 in FBI terror investigations. It was widely reported in 2019 and in subsequent years that based on FBI data, the area corresponding to Ilhan Omar's congressional district had the highest number of individuals who left the U.S. to join a foreign terrorist organization compared to any other community in the country. Between 2007 and 2019, 45 Somali American men and boys from the Minneapolis area joined or attempted to join groups like Somali-based Al-Shabaab and Iraq and Syria-based ISIS. They were characterized in various news reports by conservative media outlets like Fox and CBN as the terrorist recruitment capital of the United States. And do you want to know what Ilhan Omar had to say about that? That's all racism, that the FBI are being racist by looking into these things and by reporting these. Oh, what's the word? What's the word? Hate fact. We're being racist for reporting this hate fact. And now that it's all come out that this fraud thing, if and we know now that money was getting filtered back to Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And what's her response? It's a failure of the FBI. There's no winning. Do you understand? Culturally, these people are bankrupt. Morally, spiritually, these people are bankrupt. Do you understand why light bulb head guy? Let me pull the picture back up here. Here it is. Okay, so that's Ilhan Omar on the left and Omar Fateh on the right. Do you know why light bulb head guy on the right did not get elected? Do you want to know why the election went to the incumbent white guy? Because of a tribal rivalry that goes all the way back to their home country. And all of the people who were not part of light bulb head guy's clan voted for the white guy instead of voting for him. So apparently, Somalia first doesn't apply when it comes down to the final announcement, which is the tribal thing or the clan thing. And what happened after that? Ilhan Omar got on TV and publicly berated the Somali community for going with it's basically a Somali clan rivalry affecting a U.S. election. This is how far we've come. Any of the things, any of the things that Teddy Roosevelt talked about no divided allegiance here, to their credit, they don't have a divided allegiance. Their allegiance is to Somalia. And moreover, their allegiance is to their own particular clan of Somalians before Americans or anything else. And we continue to let them in. Why? Why? What do we gain by allowing these people into the country? What do we gain? Don't talk to me in vagaries anymore. Don't talk to me in vagaries anymore about diversity is our strength. Don't talk to me in vagaries about we're a nation of immigrants. We're a melting pot. All of these. Don't talk. What specifically do we gain by bringing these people in? I'll wait. Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing to be gained by letting these people in. Not one single Somali immigrant has contributed anything of note to the American fabric. Not one Afghan. None of these people that we have brought in from the third world, not a single one of them has contributed anything of note. What is the percentage? Guys, Google is free. Click on it right now. What is the percentage of Somali immigrants, naturalized and not, that are on welfare and food stamps? More than half, but almost 2/3 in some cases. They're not contributing anything. There is a huge difference between settlers that come to a place and carve a civilization out of the wilderness. Feel about it morally however you want to feel. Oh, stolen land, conquered, law of conquest, whatever. Feel about that however you want. But there's a chasm of difference between people who came here, carved a civilization, built a civilization out of an untamed wilderness while fighting the savages that already inhabited that land, and people who just show up once everything's built and start asking for welfare benefits. It's not the same, particularly when these people are openly hostile to the country who lets them in. It won't take you long on Google to find a Somali immigrant complaining about their condition, including Ilhan Omar and other Somali representatives. Oh, when we first got here, oh God, they made us live under horrible conditions. We had to bunk with like 10 other people. It was like a bunkhouse. It was like we were camping or something. You ingrate. Do you realize what you just left? No gratitude, nothing. And enough with the false equivalencies, please. Well, this is just another part of it. We've had these times in history that that immigrants come in and every new immigrant group is hated and they're stereotyped and eventually they fold themselves into the fabric and we're all just one big melting pot. No. No. No, 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 no. Sorry, not working. Not on this one. Did the Irish have a culture where 97% of their women had their clits forcibly removed? Did the Italians entertain a religion that provided for stoning a woman to death if she cheated on you? Refresh my memory, man. I'm old. I forget stuff. Enough of the false equivalencies. Stop. It is not the same. Third world immigration. Let me tell you something. Let me just pull this up. Ellis Island. Statistics. Okay. Here we go. From 1892 to 1954. Okay. Again, we're coming down to nation of immigrants, melting pot, all of these things. They're trying to draw the equivalency that what's going on right now, the invasion from the third world from across our southern border, the importation of people from third world festering sores like Somalia, and us continuing to house and feed them while they contribute nothing. They try to say that it's just one big part of the American story. That Ellis Island, processed all these immigrants and everybody came here with a dream and nothing but $1 in their pocket and a dream, and they wanted to come here. And no. Stop. Full stop. First of all, let's go into it. From the 1800s all the way up until about the 1920s, about 90% of American immigrants came from 3 countries. Do you know what those countries were? England, Ireland, Germany. That's right. Absolutely right. You got it. So we had a uniform culture. As it got from the 20s into the 1930s, we started getting people from Russia and Italy and Poland. Even then, there were some hiccups. Even though the cultures were just a little dissimilar, we already started having some hiccups. That generation of immigrants that was coming in. But here's the key figure. Total immigrants. Excuse me. 12 million and change. 12 million. Oh, that's what they're saying about, Biden. Only 10 million came in under Biden. Yeah. Here's the thing. Ellis Island processed that 12 million between 1892 and 1954. We're looking at 60 years. 12 million, 60 years. 12 million in 60 years, all vetted for criminal history, all vetted for health and mental stability, all vetted for political affiliation. Because of the anarchists and the wannabe Bolsheviks that were coming over. They were all vetted. 12 million over 60 years, all vetted. So no, sir or madam, that is not the same as 12 million, as 10 million coming over in 4 years. Unvetted. Completely unvetted. It's the buzzwords. Yeah, but nation of immigrants. False. Yeah, but melting pot. False. False. The origin countries these people were coming from, largely from Europe and some from Asia. What do we know about the Asians that came here? They legit came here to work the railroads and to build the community and everything. But what have we found out about the Asians? Not just back in the day, but since then. The Vietnamese refugees that have come across, the Laotians. Bone, if you're there, you're welcome. What have we found out? That they have been exemplary, that they have been the model for assimilation. They have been the model for industriousness. They have been the model for no criminality. Why? Because they have all the things that even the white European people have lost now, because we're told that we don't have a right to it. They still have the cohesion of the family. They still believe in the uniformity and adherence to the culture. They make no bones about it. They believe that their culture and their blood come before anybody else. And God love them for that. God love them for that. They believe that their blood and their culture have a legitimate right to existence, a legitimate right to self-defense, self-preservation, and self-determination. And that industriousness and family and cultural cohesion is what will make them excel. And they have. What have you noticed in this whole Somalia thing? Have you noticed that every time that the police chief has to come out and give one of these fawning, vomit-inducing apologies If I made anyone feel bad by suggesting you guys are a bunch of criminals, I really want to apologize. What, for pointing out another hate fact? That you guys are all criminal vermin? But when he apologizes, what always happens? He has to apologize through an interpreter. Remind me again about the Vietnamese in Houston and how that's supposed to be the same. The Vietnamese community in Houston had signs put up in Little Saigon, parts of Bel Air, where the Asians congregated. They had signs put up in their native language, street signs, the street names put up in their native language. You want to know who paid for it? The community. And they certainly don't have the disgrace of every time someone from the city has to talk to one of their community leaders having to talk through an interpreter. The beauty of it is that almost never happens because the crime rate among Asians is so absurdly low. It's not the same. Stop acting as if it were. Do not let other people clown you with this nonsense. 90% of the people that were coming across were from 3 countries. And as it proceeded, here we go, busiest year. And again, Google is free. Looking right at it. 9 seconds. Busiest year, 1907 saw a peak. Are you ready for this? In a year, a peak of, gasp, 1 million. Yeah, 1 million and change, as noted by history.com. 1,004,756. 40% of Americans today can trace their ancestry to someone who came from Ellis Island. At its peak, 5,000 people a day were processed with an average of 1,900 daily. All vetted. All vetted. So how do we get from there to here? 1965. Where we put a cap on the number of culturally compatible groups that could come in and put an emphasis on importing the third world. Guess what? You import the third world, you become the third world. The people who came across, they didn't have chain migration where they set up and they just start bringing everybody across regardless and nobody's vetted. That did not happen. There was a marked shift in 1965 and everything has been on a downward trend since then. Nation of immigrants, false. Melting pot, utterly false. Stop letting people gaslight you on this. You're not going to change their mind. They are ignorant beyond redemption and willfully so. You're not going to change their mind. But don't let them gaslight you and jack your perceptions up. This thought that we've always been wide open and that oh God, some of the stuff that I'm hearing this week. This country was built by Somalis and Afghans and what in the blue hell are you talking about? We didn't have Somalis here until about 1991. There was no significant Somali presence at all in this country. None. Afghans, same way. But now the thought that everyone who shows up from some festering third world sore is just as American as George Washington simply by stepping foot across stepping foot across the border wall or the border barrier, that the minute they step, just by magic, they're Americans now. They're all part of the fabric and we need to embrace them. No. Stop. And then we wonder why. That these same people that feel this way wonder why when it backfires and it bites us in the ass. This is one fraud case. One. I think the total now is working on 8 billion. One case. They took money from the American taxpayer as if it wasn't enough that we were housing and feeding them in the first place, 2/3 of them were on welfare and public assistance. And then this scam, once they figured it out, and kickback money too, and it's going to come out. I don't care what you think about it anymore because you're just wrong. It's going to come out that Tim Walz was getting his pockets lined. It's going to come out that Ilhan Omar was getting her pockets lined. Wasn't enough that we were already housing and feeding them. No. They had to rip us off for billions of dollars and send a good chunk of that home as remittances that wound up in the hands of al-Shabaab. Terrorists who no doubt are going to attack the United States or its allies because they're Muslims. That's what they do. What's it going to take? Then the other thing that they will try to tell you, and again, we're just going to, just a list of things with just the Somalis. Since they're in the spotlight, let's take one good look. Let's just take one long good look. And this is stuff that I pulled up with a 9-second Google search. You ready for this? They are the terrorist recruitment capital of the United States, have been on the radar of the FBI. Okay. That's a different statistic for another time. 2020 study indicated that 48.7% of Somalis are products of first or second cousin marriages. That's another good one. Right? Although they don't lead the world in it. Middle Eastern and North African nations shows the greatest frequency, but they also have, and with the associated health problems. But yeah, what country has the highest rate of first cousin marriage? Pakistan. So, at least they're not topping the charts. So I guess that's okay. Then comes an article from the BBC defending first cousin marriages. Yeah, the BBC. That's us. That's the West. That's Britain. Because we welcome them in, we feed them, we house them. They refuse to assimilate. They spit in our faces. They laugh in our faces. And then when we go to eradicate the most basic thing that makes them incompatible, hey, don't bang your cousin, we're forced to accommodate them. How does this work again? What do we gain again? Drawing a blank. Again, all 9-second Google search. All 9-second Google search. Then I want you to enter average IQ by country. If you want some real fun. Oh, there you go with your white supremacy again, Bart. No, not at all. Not at all. Because you want to know who leads? Tell me who leads. I don't need you to look. You guys know who leads. Who leads? Highest IQ. China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, oddly enough, Iran, Singapore, Russia, Mongolia, and then we get into some white countries. Asians, far and away more intelligent. This isn't about supremacy. This isn't about anything, but facts are facts. When you are trying to assimilate people from a country where the average IQ is 67. Do you know what the standard for retardation is? 70. 67 is the average IQ for Somalis. Ready for this, kids? I got some more. Got some more pulled up. All the great cultural contributions that these guys make. Why we should welcome them in. Ready for this? Let's go for it. Since we're here, 9-second Google search. What percentage, this might take longer than 9 seconds because I type slow. What percentage of Somali women have had female genital mutilation? An estimated 99% of women and girls aged 15 to 49 have undergone female genital mutilation, making the country the highest prevalence in the world. That's Somalia. That's what we're welcoming in. All you ladies with your Handmaid's Tale cosplay, sit down and shut up. Enough. If you will embrace these people who forcibly, let me come in close. I really want you to catch this, Karen. I really want you to get this. You ready? Ready? You embrace, because diversity is our strength. You embrace this culture that, come here, forcibly excises the external part of the clitoris from women younger than 15. Sometimes shortly after birth, they excise their clits and in some cases stitch their vagina shut. Diversity is our strength, ladies. So you can spare me the Handmaid's Tale hand wringing and pearl clutching. Spare me. Don't talk to me about how much you care about women and the patriarchy and protecting them from the oppressive men and conservatism and the overbearing Christian prevalence of, women having to submit to men. Stop. Stop. Shut up. Unequivocally. I don't want to hear a word. Because here you have a culture that takes females before the two. And wait, you ready? Because I already know, particularly one, and I'm not going to call her out by name, but I already know one who's going, well, let's talk about circumcision here in America. Also bad. Okay? Also bad. You know what it's not in America? Mandatory. Yeah, you're right. Little boys don't have a choice about whether they're cut or uncut. Yeah, that's pretty abhorrent. But you're seriously going to try to draw, again, getting back to the false equivalencies, you're seriously going to try to draw a moral equivalency between a doctor under surgical conditions at the behest of the parents cutting the foreskin off a boy shortly after birth, and you're really going to draw an equivalency between that and again, just to make sure you didn't miss it, excising a woman's clit and stitching her lips shut. You're seriously going to try to draw that equivalency. We're not dealing with serious people anymore. Suffices to say, no, it's not the same. Every immigrant group has its stereotypes when they come to this country, and they're always going to wind up getting filled. No, it's not like that anymore. It's not. Do not try to draw equivalencies between these, let me say it again, savages and European immigrants that came over. Do not try to draw a moral equivalency between these, again, savages from Somalia and Afghanistan and the Irish, who were thought to be too rowdy and drink too much. Don't. Stop. Just forget it. Yeah, what about the Italians and organized crime, dude? Okay. Tell me the last time an Italian community in Minneapolis pulled $8 billion off the taxpayer. Were they making their money? Yeah, they were making their money. The people who were giving them the money were generally people who were, buying guns, buying dope, paying interest on to a loan shark, whatever it is, whatever criminal enterprise. They took it out of the economy. What they didn't take it out of was the taxpayer. Nobody profited from that. So stop. Spare me. Well, people made up a lot of bad things about the Chinese, man, when they were like building the railroads, a bunch of opium traffickers and stuff. Yeah, man, there's a lot of bad things said about there were a whole lot of bad things. We had a whole, you know what we did though? Here's the thing. Even though, because you guys are the ones that lament this, we passed a law capping immigration on them based on stuff that wasn't even entirely true. And yet we've got blatant freaking evidence, and white liberal women say, no, sorry, we can't put a cap on immigration. Do you know what Darth Cheeto had to say about that? That's what Darth Cheeto had to say about that. And he put a cap on 19 different countries, and he was absolutely right to do it. Absolutely right to do it. Don't care. If that makes me a bad person, then I'm just going to have to walk around being a bad person. I don't care. I don't care anymore. And every one of these Stasi Karens can come after me with their ridiculous freaking intellectual gymnastics, and I will choke them with Truth God. I just don't care anymore. I don't. I don't. And nor should you. That's the whole point. There is too much at stake, people. There's too much at stake. I want to point out another, you know what? I'm going to put hate fact back up. I'm going to put that up because we've got some more for you. Here's another 9-second Google search. What percentage of Americans were white by decade? 1950, 90%. This is how quick it's gone, okay? You want to look at the decline. In 1950, we were 90% white in America. 90%. In 1965, Ted Kennedy sponsored that law that got signed into place to put a cap on European immigration, instead favor third world source and bring them over here, because diversity is our strength. As of 1980, we had gone from 90% to 79.6%. In another 10 years, 75.6%. In another 10 years, by 2000, we were at 69.1%. By 2010, 63.7%. By 2020, 60%. And in 2023, the last year for which accurate stats are available, we were at 58%. We have gone from a country that is 90% white to a country that is 58% white. But remember that ethnic replacement thing, that great replacement theory, yeah, that's propaganda and a conspiracy theory. No, it is not. They know what they're doing and they know why they're doing it. And here's the added bonus for the sake of the left and for the sake of Muhammad's minions. Another little bonus for them is the fact that most of these people who are coming from these festering sores masquerading as countries, all Muslim. Beautiful. Beautiful, isn't it? It's like the cherry on top of that poison cake that they're feeding us. And we have opened the doors. And you know who's to blame? You got a mirror? If you got a mirror, you should probably be looking into it right now. That's who to blame. Because we've done nothing. Even the people that know better. Oh man, Jim Goad, I'm glad you brought that up. Even the ones that know better have been reluctant to speak out. Why? A lot of people didn't want their friends to call them bigots. A lot of them are in relationships with liberal women and didn't want to take the risk of either A, not getting any sex, or B, getting no fault divorced and losing half of their stuff over a difference in political opinion. So yeah, simp. Yeah, coward. Your fault too. Your fault too. Even now, a lot of people are afraid to draw the line. Even now, a lot of people aren't just being cowards. A lot of people are true believers. There are a lot of alleged men out there who think that this is a great thing, who truly believe diversity is our strength. And again, while we're on 9-second Google searches, what was the last one? 99% of women in Somalia have had female genital mutilation. Well, yeah, bro, but that's in Somalia. That's why we bring them over here because it's already changed. You want to know you want to know what it is here? You want to know what the stats are here? Somebody look it up, man. Because all you got to do is use that same term that we just used and add in the United States. See how easy that was? In the United States, researchers found that the vast majority of Somali women have had female genital mutilation. Studies in Somali American communities reporting rates of 77 to 97%. So on the low end, we're still looking at better than 3/4 of women in America, Somali Americans. Remember, we can't have that divided loyalty, the hyphenated American, everything that Teddy Roosevelt warned us about. Yeah, we can't do that. Okay, well, there they are. And 75% of them have had their clits cut out. Again, maybe that's why Ilhan Omar never smiles. Maybe. Maybe she's incapable of smiling and she's so uptight and hostile because the woman's never had a clitoral orgasm. That's entirely possible. I'd love for somebody to get the medical authentication on that. Just a theory, thinking out loud here, just spitballing. 75%. And here's the fact check that Google throws out. It's important to note the following points. Female genital mutilation is illegal in the United States. Mm-hmm. The practice is often a deeply entrenched cultural tradition, and while campaigns against it exist, women in the U.S. community still live with the health consequences of it that doctors in the community are willing to perform the procedure. This is what we are welcoming in with open arms. Tell me again, give me an equivalency, Well, they hated the Irish too. Yeah, okay. We're really going to draw that? We're really going to draw that? I don't know why bother. I don't know why bother. Because the people that know, and the people that I don't even know. I gotta tell you, man, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I just feel like I'm wasting my time. Here's another 9-second search. Domestic violence rates by nations in Africa. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Why bother? Why bother? I had somebody point out, because I threw something out last week. I threw something out last week about the prevalence of mental illness among white liberal women. And the stat that I threw it out kind of half-handed because the stat was based on a report from Pew Research. And I had it quite correctly pointed out to me that Pew study was self-reported and that the data set was a little, was somewhat suspect and probably shouldn't make brash generalizations based on a story that is quite that suspect. And I thought, yeah, you know what, that's fair. That's entirely fair. So here's some, again, since we're on 9-second Google searches. SSRI use, men versus women. The prevalence of SSRI use, women are significantly more likely to use antidepressants, including SSRIs, than men. 17% of the women versus 8% of the men. Older adults, prescription trends, unique sex, okay, influences hormones, and then it goes into the effects. But women, almost twice as likely to be on SSRIs. Unhappiness and anxiety disorders, men versus women. Women experience higher rates of anxiety and depression, internalizing feelings, sadness, withdrawals, yada, yada, yada. Higher prevalence. Women are twice as likely to develop depression and anxiety disorders. And more likely to have co-occurring depression and eating disorders with their anxiety. Just another 9-second Google search. What's this one? Rate of diagnosed mental disorders, men versus women. In the United States, women are more likely to be diagnosed with any mental illness than men, 26.7% versus 20% just in 2024. Overall rates of health disorders vary across the lifetime, or similar between men and women, but women always have the higher rate. Higher rates of internalizing disorders, specific disorder prevalence. Women are higher in major depression, generalized anxiety. Rates are similar, though, with bipolar. I may be evidence of that right now. Panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and eating disorders, infinitely higher among women. We are higher in schizophrenia, and we're more likely to misuse substances. But again, general statements. Let me see. Data sets. Well, I got 4 of them here. The prevalence of MDE among female young adults, 18 to 25, is 1.7 to 2.5 times higher than males. Intersectional trends, poor mental health. Let me see. What do we got? Same set. Let's go into AI mode. And there it is, AI mode. Data sets on women mental disorder, higher prevalence, not including the Pew study. And there are 4 data sets right off the top if anybody wants to dig a little deeper, since I don't want to be unfair and throw out rash generalizations. But then again, we could get into some other hate facts like race of violent crime broken down by race. Nobody wants to get into that either. And that takes me to the last one that I had was the stats on Ellis Island, since we're doing that. But here, the last thing that I wanted to discuss were cluster B mental disorders. Sanctimony, substance and sliding scales, cluster B pathologies, and the StasiKaren Activist class. That's what got me back on to studying about mental health as regards white liberal women and how they vote and how they act and how they interact and how they view the world. I'm not a psychologist. Cluster B personality disorders are characterized by dramatic, overly emotional, and unpredictable behavior. Does any of that sound familiar? With awfuls or Stasi Karens, any of that? Lack of remorse or empathy for hurting others, particularly when they're insulated from the consequences. Like, let's go ahead and vote for these horrible procedures that are eventually going to hurt us too. But they won't hurt us immediately. Everybody else will have to live with it. Why does this come up, Art? What's troubling you? You know damn well what's troubling me. I'm troubled by the fact that women are getting stabbed on trains. I'm troubled by the fact that women are getting set on fire on Chicago subway platforms. And I'm more troubled by the fact I specified last week, and any of you out there that feel this way, or God forbid, try to accord this feeling to me, that they deserved it for the way that they voted, miss me with that. I could not disagree more. But I am troubled by the fact that in spite of these things continuing to happen, that they are so rooted in emotion over logic in their voting patterns and what it is doing to the social fabric as a whole. They vote to throw a border wide open. This place gets flooded with people from these festering sores in the Arab world and sub-Saharan Africa. And lo and behold, violence against women goes up. And when you point it out to them, they'll continue to vote the same way. Why do you think leftists, even alleged men on the left, are locked into that way of thinking? Emotion over logic, no connection. Those cluster B personality disorders, all of the symptoms are part of the StasiKaren and part of the awful class. What do? You pray for them. You pray for them. That's all you can do. There's no effect. Trying to explain it to them. How many times have we had this discussion? All of the rape culture that they lament. I can tell you, as a combative and self-defense instructor, trying to get across to them the importance of taking responsibility for their own safety. And the StasiKaren class and the Pollyanna class, no, you just need to teach men not to rape. Well, crap, lady, I hadn't thought of that. We are told as men from birth, not if you grew up in Somalia or a Muslim nation, okay, of course, the ones that they want us replaced with, the ones that they want this nation flooded with. If you grew up there, you weren't told this, but if you grew up in the West, you were told from birth that this is a set of social expectations regarding women. You don't ever put your hands to them. You treat them like queens. You prioritize them above your own health and your own well-being. You sit them up on a pedestal, and this is how they are to be treated. And certain things are off limits. Once upon a time, that went the other direction. You were expected to trust your man's judgment. You were expected to treat your man with respect. You definitely didn't put hands to a man, if for no other reason than the fact that they're not allowed to hit you back. You were to prioritize him. And if you were in a relationship with him, you were to prioritize him above all other men. There's some things you just don't do out of respect, if that respect in fact exists. None of that exists anymore. We are taught what the expectations are. And then we are given another set of expectations from these boss bitches and these independent women who know their worth and don't need no man. We get saddled with that as well. And then they want to turn around and vote for policies like equity-based sentencing, no cash bail. They want to march with movements like Black Lives Matter. And then they act surprised. At least they look surprised. In the final picture we ever get to see of them, they look really, really surprised. When a guy with noted mental illness is walking around in the free world with 41 prior arrests and God knows how many violent convictions and stabs them in the neck and walks off saying, I got that white girl. They look surprised when a violent felon with over 70 previous arrests pours gasoline on them on public transportation and sets them on fire. They act surprised. And rather than draw the logical conclusion of maybe we should have listened to the people that tried to advise us against this, maybe we should have listened to the people who were trying to steer society in a different direction so predatory miscreant savages don't get to just run free and make us their prey of choice. No. You know who they blame? Us for not protecting them. And I say all that to say this. I understand the temptation to chuck it all. I understand the temptation to fall into that burn the coal, pay the toll. I understand. Believe me, I do. But we can't. Not because we wouldn't be 100% justified in doing so by any logical stretch. Careful what you wish for, now you got it. We can't do it because it's still wrong. We can't do it because it's still wrong. That's what we're saddled with, guys. As men in the West, in America, of white European descent, that's what we're saddled with. So while I sympathize with wanting to chuck it all and just go, dude, I don't need this. I don't care what happens anymore. We have a higher calling. Y'all can think I'm being foolish. Y'all can think I'm being idealistic. Y'all think I'm being whatever it is you think of that. But I tell you why I continue to do it. Because I do feel like it's a higher calling. Because I do believe in every word that's escaping my mouth. I do believe in the West. I do believe in the nation. I do believe in the faith. I do believe in all of the grandiose and wonderful things, the glories of Christendom, and everything that the West has given to the world. I do believe that we are not out of the fight. I do believe that all of the things that are at the root of these things that I support, I believe this in my heart of hearts. And you know what? Maybe I am an idiot. Maybe I'm being the Pollyanna now. You guys go ahead, feel about it however you want, but I'm just laying it out for you. I believe that we are not out of the fight. I believe that the West is God's highest expression on this planet. I believe that all of the social mores that got us here and made us the glory and envy of every other festering sore on the face of this planet, the only place in the world where, for all the vile hate that they spew, they still will kill their neighbor to get here. For all the complaints that they have about it, they still won't leave. I believe in the glories of that. I believe in the promise of that. I believe in everything that got us to this point. And yes, it gnaws at my guts when I see it getting picked apart by vultures. Yeah, it gnaws at my guts when I see it being eroded from the inside out from people who use our principles against us. Yes, it crushes me inside to see people who are of my kin and of my blood and of my culture to hate themselves the way that they do, and to want nothing more than to see it all come collapsing down. It rips me to pieces. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it because the boss man put me here for it. I'm here for it because it is the boss man's highest expression, God's highest expression on this earth. And I do believe in the fundamental strength of it. I also believe that if it does vanish off the face of this earth, all of civilization goes with it. Once the West is gone, hang it up. Nothing is going to save humanity. So we got a divine calling. And in spite of the fact that every effort is unappreciated, Western man, in spite of the fact that every effort will go unappreciated, in spite of the fact that every effort will go disrespected, in spite of those facts, we still have a higher calling. And I choose to step up to that calling. Hold on! Perils of live entertainment, boys and girls. So, in any case, that's what I have to offer. Y'all stay strong. I pray that the boss man and the carpenter bless you. God bless each and every one of you. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. I get fired up, man. We're going to let you guys get out of here. Appreciate you being here, each and every one of y'all. I'm going to pass around that digital collection plate. Let you guys drop. You feel like kicking down, you can kick on down. That's totally fine. I'm on PayPal. I'm on Cash App. I'm on Venmo. I'm on all those other things. If you can't kick down, I totally appreciate that as well. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, though, if you would. If you got your own social media platform, your own social media following, I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and share the podcast, pass it along to somebody, kindred spirits and like minds. Hopefully build that community. And in the meantime, between time, here's something you guys can do, not just for me, but primarily for yourselves. Mike, if you're still here, you can go ahead and give it to them. What's the hashtag, brother? The hashtag is Live the 3. Live the 3. What are we talking about? Talking about the 3 prime directives, talking about the 3 rules for life. Rule number 1, you got to be signaled in the face of all that noise. That's right, man. The noise is the obfuscations, the lies, the distractions. The signal is the truth, and that's what you got to carry that signal through to get it through the noise. You got to be light in a world full of darkness. They'll try to bury you with the darkness, smother you with it, emasculate you, eviscerate you, demoralize you, crush you with the darkness. You got to be that light. You got to be that light, and sometimes that darkness can last for a long freaking time, fellas. It lasts for a long freaking time. So you got to be that strength to carry it through. You got to be that strength to carry it through, which leads us to the third and final rule. You got to be strength in a world full of weakness. You got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm just not just talking about here. Strength, yeah, here, but it's also got to be here, here, and here. You got to find your spine. You let your balls drop, man, because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. If you don't have strength, you're not going to be able to punch that signal through the noise. If you don't have strength, you're not going to be able to punch that light through the darkness. You are the one that's got to carry the flame, and you got to have strength to carry that flame, people. So pray for that strength. When you're on your knees at night, and you better be on your knees at night, you pray for that strength, but you also pray for clarity and discernment. Why? Because all the strength in the world, Father Elias is still out there. He'll try to mislead you. He'll try to mislead you. But at the end of the day, you need clarity and discernment to see through the lies, to bleed through the distractions. So you pray for that clarity and discernment. Strength, clarity, and discernment always when you pray, and you better be praying. Get your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron, brother. Get your face in some scripture, your ass under some iron, and the world will be a better place. I promise you. God bless each and every one of y'all. I love you, man. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Believe the Spirit work through you. I love each and every one of you. God bless. We'll see you next Sunday. Peace.